Welcome to Thirst Impressions. I'm Belinda, and today we're talking about Maid's Milky Misogyny and the Man.
And I'm Spencer, and I'm wearing my sunglasses at night.
And I am Will.
And I'm Kevin.
So what are we drinking today, Kevin?
Yeah, let's have a drink.
What are we drinking today? Well,
What aren't we drinking?
Yeah.
Right. Well, at least that's for me. What aren't I drinking today, Kevin?
So, as we record this, we're a few days shy of St. Patrick's Day, a famous drinking
Shiver
holiday.
Me Timbers. Is that Irish?
Famous drinking
No, that's
holiday.
pirate.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I think that's just pirate. Yeah. Shiver Me Timbers. I'm Irish.
I'm Irish. Give me a pot of gold.
So Irish whiskey is kind of what we decided to go with. And we're going to make essentially a riff on a whiskey sour, but it's with Irish whiskey and some cucumber. And it's called the Irish Maid, which, kind of sounds
Patriarchal.
Yeah, it sounds a little patriarchal for my taste, but
I'm going to drink
delicious.
of a woman tonight.
The Irish Maid.
Should we start this over?
No, most definitely not.
Shiver Me Timbers, no. So
I mean, we did talk about Ben Shapiro not knowing what a wet ass pussy was, so there's that.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. I do. And
Are
it
there
is
off-limit topics on this show?
It is the Irish Maid.
You're like, I did not know this.
The Irish Maid is the WAP of cocktails. But go ahead.
It's true.
There you go.
So I actually, even though the recipe was created by a bartender who I respect a lot, he invented probably my favorite Scotch cocktail and probably one of my top 3 cocktails overall, called the penicillin. But he also made this recipe, and there's also a Kentucky made, just using bourbon instead of the Irish whiskey. You can make a Scotch made, whatever. But the concept is really simple. You take a little cucumber and you slice it up, a couple slices, or if you're like me and you really like cucumber, 3 or 4, and then you muddle it directly in your
What is
tin.
muddling?
Muddling just means squish that
Smashing
shit
it up.
Yeah.
You get it wet.
I will warn you, just the tip with Kevin for today
Just
is
a tip.
muddling is a wonderful thing for some things, but not others. If you muddle things like mint or basil, it actually can turn it very bitter and delicious.
I did make
so
a
you do
mint
wanna be
julep the
careful.
other
whisk!
day. I did make a mint julep, and I had to be careful with the muddle.
Yeah, I don't even muddle my mint julep. I spank my mint. I just pull out that mint and slap it against my hand a little bit.
Kevin,
Smell my hand, and it's fucking delicious.
I'm getting
Then
bothered by that.
throw it into the tin, and
Oh
the
my.
shaking will
Muddle it
will
for
do
you,
the-
So
the
you
yeah.
spank
muddling
it
for you.
and shake it.
I
is what
spank
you're
it
saying.
and shake it. Yeah.
God damn you.
And then it's all delicious. Yeah.
All right.
So I've got my cucumber in here, muddled it up. I pre-mixed some of this. I haven't shaken it yet, but then I add 2 ounces of Irish whiskey, and I took some liberties with the recipe. We'll post the original recipe, but then our liberties that we took too. The recipe calls for both simple syrup and elderflower liqueur. I have Bull's elderflower liqueur. There's a few different.
I haven't tried that. Is that available in Utah?
I'm afraid not. It's
fuck.
Yeah, we have to mention one of those every week on this
Okay.
podcast. One thing that's not available, but you can get elderflower liqueur, just a different brand.
So we had a little pre-show chat, and I will admit, I thought, what the fuck is Kevin doing with triple sec? Because the only bowls I've seen here is triple sec. So it's like,
Yeah,
okay, cool,
yeah.
you're going with it.
Yeah, no. It's an elderflower liqueur. So 3/4 of an ounce of elderflower liqueur. The original recipe calls for a 1/2 ounce and then 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. It was way too sweet for me, and I think you agreed with that, right, Spencer?
Yeah. I made a few. I won't say how many, but I made a few, and I discovered I don't personally need any simple syrup at all.
Yeah, I did the same. I ditched all of
Unless
it.
I'm trying to stretch it into 2 cocktails, which I did
Yeah.
for
Oh,
a guest.
that's what I
had,
should be
but,
doing right now. Dang it.
If you do want to stretch it, and stretch your elderflower, because it is expensive. Elderflower at least can be expensive, I should say.
You get the nice stuff, yeah.
If you get the good stuff, the St-Germain.
Not when you buy the bowls.
St-Germain.
Yeah, the simple syrup helps you stretch it, but if you're just putting elderflower, you don't need that much.
Yeah, so I did bump the elderflower from a 1/2 ounce to 3/4, but then just got rid of the 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup altogether. So 2 ounces of Irish whiskey, 3/4 of the elderflower liqueur, 3/4 of the juice of a fresh lemon, and that's it. Then you add your ice and you shake and strain. Another just the tip with Kevin. When you're straining something that's been muddled, whether it be cucumber, blackberries, whatever the case may be. Oh, I like your ribbon of
Darling.
Of coconut.
Spencer's like so
Coconut,
fancy.
Cucumber. Yeah.
Fancy as fuck.
But when I strain, I use my regular cocktail strainer. But then I also double strain on something like this just to catch the seeds or.
If you want some
juicy
fiber,
bits.
though, just
Catch
use your
the seed.
Hawthorne
That's
strainer.
true.
You're good to go.
With this cocktail, you can serve it a variety of ways. A coupe would probably be kind of the standard, but also a rocks glass is just fine over a nice large ice cube or something like that. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and shake. Irish whiskey is interesting. I will say, sorry about the noise. I'm adding my ice right now. Irish whiskey used to be the most popular whiskey in the world. Up until the very end of the 19th century, when bourbon started to really take things over. At one point in like 1890, I want to say, Ireland had 28 different distilleries, and Ireland's not a big place. Like geographically, it's not a huge place.
But they love their alcohol.
They do. They fucking love their whiskey in particular, and it's delicious. But then there was a big decline, and by 1972, which is the year I was born, by the way. That's not real. I just made that up. Don't believe that. Anyone who's stealing my identity. Anyway,
Kevin, what's your mother's maiden name again?
It's Trump.
No.
No, I'm just kidding. It's not Trump. But by 1972, there were only 2 Irish distilleries left in Ireland. And now there's more than that. It's kind of had a resurgence. But yeah, Irish whiskey, it's delicious. What kind of whiskey is everyone drinking tonight? Belinda, what are you having?
I am having Jameson for mine. I stole it out of
classic.
your house.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I am not drinking an Irish whiskey. I'm just drinking a double rye.
Nice.
There you go. You're doing the American Maid, the
Yeah.
Alice. We'll call it the Alice.
Like a pioneer maiden, right?
Yeah.
Oh, girl.
I am drinking Sexton single malt Irish whiskey because I'm bougie like that. No, it's delicious. Also not available here in Utah. All right, I'm going to mute for a minute while I shake it up.
So I am just making just a whiskey sour. So basically all I did was, 2 ounces of whiskey, the double rye that I had, 3/4 of an ounce of lime, and 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup.
Did you do any egg white?
No,
Oh, okay.
I did not.
You're doing an egg safe whiskey sour.
Yes,
Egg
this is
free,
yes, it's a vegan variety of
There you
whiskey
go.
sour.
I like it.
Minus
So
the
I-
aquafaba.
I went ahead and poured a double because why not? And for garnish on this, you can do whatever you want. You get really fancy like Spencer, or
You can
just
get Spencered if you want.
simple like me and do a little lemon and cucumber
Wow.
garnish on the top.
Is that a
with-
cocktail
Sure.
pick, Kevin?
It is.
This is a cocktail pick. It's a beautiful one.
I just ordered some new ones. I have an octopus
Fancy.
on the way, a skull, a
Yeah.
sphere, I believe, and a cube.
Love and Victory has the cutest.
Victory. That's where
cocktail
you got
pick.
these from me, right?
Yeah.
Belinda gave me these for Christmas a couple years back, and
Nice.
I love them very much.
Nice.
We'll put a link in the show notes to Love and Victory.
I should have grabbed my whiskey
Yeah.
bottle, but I got Writer's Tears whiskey, is what I'm using.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually scrubbed out the writers and I put Mormon Tears. So I rebranded it
should.
Mormon Tears. So it's been a
Do
fun
we need
weekend.
to have a new version of Mormon Tears every week on the podcast?
We should.
You know,
We
it's,
should.
it's saline or salt the first time, then it's Irish whiskey, and then
Oh my
honestly,
god.
let's be legit here. Like, Irish whiskey should be Mormon Tears because basically most of the Salt Lake Valley is made up of people from the British Isles, right?
This is
Like,
true.
true.
This
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah.
People who fucking left their families and jobs and security of their home country
Yeah.
to come to America to follow charlatans into the desert. But
Yeah.
Pioneer
Cheers.
sex cult.
Cheers.
to Mormon Tears, yeah.
Yes.
Cheers to Mormon Tears. I want to listen to Tears for Fears now.
Oh yeah, I was just listening to that earlier today. Yeah. So some weird shit's been going on this week.
Have you
What?
guys
Yeah.
seen Donnie Darko?
No.
No,
What is
I
that?
haven't seen it.
Oh
It's
my
a
god.
movie.
Okay, you have to watch that. Have you seen it, Will?
I haven't.
Okay, we're no longer friends.
Homework.
all of you.
Yeah.
You have to watch
Is it a
the fucking
scary movie?
No, it's
Oh,
just
okay.
weird as fuck. And the song Tears for Fears is featured. That's why I asked. But you're right, Kevin. It's been a weird week.
How's
Well,
it been weird?
Do you know why it's been weird to me? Everything's been so intense this whole year so far. Like every week when we do the podcast, it's like obvious what we should talk about, right?
I mean, we
Right.
fucking started
have to.
on the siege of the
Oh my
Capitol.
God.
Like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
Exactly.
Jesus.
So this week I thought at first in my mind the George Floyd trial, well, not the George Floyd trial. Well, I don't even want to say his fucking name.
Yeah.
We all know who we're talking about. The
Yeah.
officer who is implicated in the death of, well, not implicated. He
He
fucking
did. He
it.
killed him. Yeah.
We all the world watched as he killed George Floyd in the streets of Minneapolis. But that trial started this week, so I was like, oh, maybe we'll take that slant. But obviously the trial's not over, so we'll save that for a future
Yeah.
episode probably.
Although Minneapolis, I have some people, some friends that I follow from Minneapolis, and it's like locked down. Like there's helicopters flying 24/7.
Really?
They've
So
built up
Portland
like
is too.
barricades, and yeah, they're prepared for like civil unrest.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
been as tuned into the preparations for the trial, but it certainly has brought me back to last year. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I as a black man, if you will, I was lulled, I think, over time into a sense of security and optimism with regards to race relations in the United States. And it just shook me so fucking hard to see. And I watched the video. I saw Officer Chauvin kneel on a man's neck for almost 8 minutes without any sort of indication of humanity or a desire to check on the person. And
Yeah.
it's hard to separate race from the issue, particularly as you examine the circumstances around it all. Whew, it was heavy, man. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cried a lot. You know, I talked to my kids and I was just like, straight up, some people are just going to hate you for who you are. That's real life. And it was a dark time for me as a single parent having to have those conversations. I do hope that justice is served, whatever that looks like. I do hope that truth will prevail. I can't say I'm optimistic, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that these things will come to light in the trial.
Well, it looks like the Floyd family, at least, they came to a settlement with, I think it was one of the local governments, and they're getting paid like tens of millions of dollars.
27 million, I believe.
Yeah.
But even then, dude, like, it's fucking money. I mean,
Life is
Right.
priceless.
I've been alive long enough. I don't want to go off on a tangent on NFTs or anything, but I'm a designer, and that's been a hot topic these days. And
Yeah.
you know, people are like, "Oh, hey, you know, you should sell your stuff for on the blockchain." And I'm like, "Well, money is not everything. You know, you can throw $27 million at this family, but it doesn't change the fact that their son is gone.
Yeah.
You know, it might make their life a little easier, but god damn it, like if my kid were killed because he's black, I don't know if I'd be okay even spending that fucking money. Like, oh my
Right,
God, I would just want to
right.
like donate it all to some cause and just be like,
Which, by the way, if they need it, they absolutely should. They should feel no
I get that.
regrets
I get that. It's
towards
just,
spending that.
it almost feels, and I'm not criticizing the family for taking the money per se or anything like that. It's just, if I put myself in that position, it would be really hard.
Well,
to
it,
just
it
be like,
feels it
here's some money,
feels
which is basically, here's some money, shut the fuck up, you know?
yeah,
And
no, that
Exactly.
that's what I was gonna say, is it feels a lot like a payoff, right?
Well,
And
it is. I mean,
it is a payoff, and it happens all across the country. For instance, I may get these numbers a little bit wrong, like I just general disclaimer, but it's some crazy amount in New York City. The amount of money that they paid in, I think, 2018 to pay off for police brutality lawsuits was like on the order of $500 million with a B,
Oh.
$500 million.
Yeah.
I think
people-
it might have even been more than that.
Yeah,
I think it was
Like
closer
it was
to
an
$1 billion.
obscene amount. Yeah.
it's obscene, and it's
And that
like,
was
why?
was-
This is, I don't mean to, I know this is not the topic we want to discuss this week, but I think it's pretty good. But like, why are we okay with police departments just making these payoffs? Why can't we just not have the need for the payoffs in the first place, right? Why not just train the police officers and hire specialists in areas that the police are not well equipped to handle?
This is
Yeah.
what, when people talk about defunding the police, there's so much misinformation about this concept.
Agreed.
And I don't claim to be an expert in any way, shape, or form. And I certainly may misspeak on this a bit, but in the way I understand it, is this is more what we're talking about is, okay, rather than spending money on militarizing the police force, rather than spending money on unnecessary training that's about militarizing the
Right.
police force as well, rather than needing to spend all this money on paying off victims of the police force, why don't we just change the police force in such a way that we don't need those things so much
Yeah.
anymore? There's really hardly anything in this country that
it
would,
feels
would
like
require
it feels
such a
like
thing.
so much of society operates on this idea that people are just, and I get it, I understand, but it almost comes from a space of fear. It's like fear of black people, fear of brown people, fear of like everything, instead of, can we appeal to our higher selves and just be, and maybe that sounds Pollyanna of me or like optimistic or whatever, but I'm just like, can we just assume the best in people instead of assuming the worst always? Because why does the police force need a fucking tank? Why
Exactly.
is it that if a guy supposedly, because we don't know, has a counterfeit bill, that all of a sudden he is a threat to your fucking life and you have to kneel on his neck and snuff his life out?
Yeah.
Why? It makes
Right.
no sense. And this shit is
Right.
real and it's painful. And for the black community and for friends and family of mine, we're just like, I just don't get it, you know.
Well, you
and
had
I-
that
and-
woman, was it this week or last week,
Maybe
where
2
she
weeks
was
ago.
a couple weeks ago, where she was assumed to have stolen something from a convenience store and was pepper sprayed in front of her
Oh yeah, I
tiny
saw
child.
that. Yeah.
Just ridiculous, you know,
Yeah,
like for
like a 3-year-old, like a fucking
nothing from a
baby,
convenience
essentially.
store is of such a value that you should even apprehend them. Like, oh my
Whi-
goodness, for
which is
heaven's sakes.
absolutely true. But guess what they found?
Nothing.
She hadn't stolen a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
No.
She hadn't stolen anything. She was assumed to have,
It's
likely
a
because of the color of her skin.
it's a
right?
curious thing as a black person, I will say, to live in a reality where I'm always having to check myself, and maybe this is a good segue into
Oh, I have one more thing I want to
Women's
say.
History Day, but it's like I'm always having to check my behavior, how I'm positioning my hands, my body, all these things, because the last thing I want to do is scare a white person. And I love you guys, but literally the last thing I want to do is scare a white person, because to me that means potential death.
Yeah.
Like,
The one thing I wanted to say was, for that case that you had mentioned, Belinda, I had seen some of the conservatives online say like, oh, well, she should have just like obeyed what the police were telling her to do and stuff. You know who didn't even get a chance was Breonna Taylor.
Exactly. And we're at the 1-year anniversary of her death
Yep.
here, right? And
Exactly.
people are being apprehended, people are being attacked needlessly, like for zero reason. Like even if there was a reason, there's no reason to use that level of violence against them, right?
And then they go after their character and their boyfriend. Like after Breonna Taylor was murdered by the police, do you know what they did? They went after her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it wasn't until just a couple weeks ago when the court finally threw out the case against her boyfriend. Like how hard, like I just don't understand why people want to support the police that are the ones that are doing this violence against a group of people. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Techniques, we've all seen, and if you haven't, listener, just Google it. There's so many videos out there of training methods of the people who train these police forces, where they teach them shoot first, ask questions later.
Yep.
Shoot first, plant a gun later. Shoot first, plant drugs later. Shoot first, plant a counterfeit bill later. Whatever. I mean, there's no arguing that these things are happening and being trained in police forces all over America. But think about the fact that the reason they go in late at night when she and her boyfriend were asleep is to take them by surprise, right? Like, so that there maybe will be a lot less chance of an armed conflict or things like that. But the reality is, when you do it the way they did it, when you go in guns blazing and fucking pound on the door, then just immediately start shooting, guess what's going to happen? The whole reason the boyfriend was, having his character assassinated basically was, guess what? Yeah, he pulled out a gun and I believe he even maybe fired back, but you're dead asleep. And all of a sudden,
where are all the Second Amendment folks? Where are all the Second Amendment folks who say you got to have your gun to protect your house?
Bingo.
That's exactly what this man did, and that's exactly what's his name?
Philando Castile.
Yes,
I'm not wearing shades because I'm emotional, but I'm glad I'm wearing shades right now, and I didn't anticipate the conversation going here, but it's fucked up and the fear is real and the shit needs to stop.
Yeah.
You know, like I see so many instances where people are given chances because of, as I see it, how they look or where they come from. And as a parent, like it's one thing if I'm just a human, whatever, I'm just living my fucking life, but I am so fucking anxious for my kids, and I try and teach them small lessons to protect them, because hey, dude, if you go for a run in the neighborhood, chances are people are going to think you're a threat and they're going to fucking shoot you and kill you.
Yep.
Like Rayshard Brooks. It's fucked up.
It's so fucked up.
There's so many stories and too many to tell on this podcast tonight, but
we need to do a whole
I'm sorry. I just
sorry.
I know it's conditioning on my part, but I hope that justice is served. I hope that truth prevails. I hope, and yes, I am invested. I'm biased, whatever. I'm not a juror, so fuck the police, whatever. But that is not okay. It's not okay to kneel on a man's neck and kill him because you thought he had a counterfeit bill. Like, in what universe is that okay?
Even if he did have a counterfeit bill, it's not okay.
How is that fucking okay?
It's in no situation is it okay ever. It's never okay to treat another human being like they're a dog. It's fucked up.
Yep.
And if there isn't justice, you know what's going to happen is us, this group, and a whole lot of our friends are going to be out on the streets again.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
I mean, are they locked down because they are concerned that or they already know that it's going to go in favor of the police, right? Like how, like, I'm worried that it's going to go in favor of the police, sadly. Are they willing to make an example of this person to save a city or save a country, right? Like, I don't know.
I mean, that's an interesting thought, Belinda. It touches on something I've observed, which is, I lean left. I think I speak for all of us when we say we all
What?
lean left.
Are you
But
serious?
seeing what
Surprise!
Biden's doing and how easy it is for him to coalesce and kowtow to whatever moderate
Yeah.
side there is, it's disappointing. I'm not optimistic that the progressive choice will be made here in terms of justice.
Same.
I'm not optimistic about it. This whole notion of law and order is steeped in so much fucking racism. Like, it's so hard to even talk about this
I
idea
mean,
of
look at
law and order. It's just like, fuck you guys. Like, Trump was talking about they're
Yep.
coming for your neighborhoods. I'm like, who the fuck is they? What are you talking
Exactly.
about? What are you talking about, man?
I'm right there with you, Spencer. It does concern me too, because like even in this past COVID relief bill, they're I saw some of the liberals meaning more the establishment folks, the more the centrist people, they came out saying like, oh, this has so much good police reform in it and all this sort of stuff, and it's giving hundreds of millions of dollars to the police. This is the exact opposite of what every single activist over the past year has been demanding. And the liberals are going out touting it as this amazing police reform bill. And it's not. It's not. It's I too am concerned, but I am very hopeful. I try to keep my optimism, because like I just don't know what I would do without being optimistic. Like I can't. I know myself. I know I will be depressed and pessimistic if I'm not optimistic. So I need to be optimistic when I see the protests happening in Portland every single night. It's still happening every single night. The other day they were just tear gassed by Biden's federal police with not just regular tear gas. It is like militarized gas that chemically burns your lungs, and they're using it on the protesters who are sitting around and chanting "No justice, no peace." They're not breaking windows or anything, and if they are, it's one or two windows, and then they get tear gas. So, I don't mean to get sidetracked. What I'm trying to point out is, still throughout this country, there is a thirst and a desire for change, and people are still going out in the streets and demanding that change. And even though it's not coming yet, we're still fighting for it, and we will continue to fight for it until we get it. There isn't any other option.
You're fighting and advocating the good fight, but that change is not universal, and that's disappointing.
Yeah.
I will admit that in oh my god, this is so hard to talk about, but in Utah, like, and coming from the Mormon context, like I optimistically thought that people were anti-racist or even post-racist, but it's so disappointing to see just how quickly we revert to the good old days. Good old days. What the fuck does that even mean? Good for you. Good for who? Who are you talking about?
Yeah. I mean, even
So that actually, well, let me stop. First of all, let me say, Spencer, I fucking love the fuck out of you. I love you
too, man.
So, God, I'm crying 2 weeks in a row. Jesus
Me
Christ!
too. Well, this is my first week.
damn
This
it.
is my first week.
there's a lot of love on this podcast. We all love each other.
There is, and I'm so fucking devastated that this is your reality. I really am, and I know that doesn't mean shit, but fucking, I'm inspired even with this short talk that we've been talking for what, a half hour or something now. I'm ready to go fucking stand at the Capitol again with my signs, even if it's just me. No justice, no peace. Fuck you, police. Fuck you, politicians. Let's make some serious change. And the only way we can do this, I was inspired this week. I kind of went off last week. If you haven't listened to last week's podcast, it's a good one. Listen to it. But I kind of went off, and I felt bad. I'm not going to name any names, but if you're listening, you know who you are. I felt really bad when I woke up the next morning that I had talked some trash against someone um, who is related closely to someone I really care about a lot. And so I reached out to her and apologized. And I was quite certain she probably didn't even know about the podcast, which she didn't at the time. But I apologized and just said, hey, I didn't mean to disrespect you. I didn't even mean to disrespect the person you're related to. Um, I fucking care about you. And, like, but, and she wrote back and she was good. She was great, actually. But I will say, as much as I still do not care for that person and have so much disrespect for that person, it reminded me deep down what I'm about is fucking love. It's about fucking, and we've talked about this on the podcast even recently. Like if we can all just like care a little more, give a little more of a shit about the people around us, like it's literally life changing to billions of people. Um, and like I'm inspired by this conversation we've already had to go fucking use my voice, use all this privilege that I have as a white hetero middle class male to go out and do the very little I can. By myself, is it going to make much of a difference? No. But if I go out and inspire a few more people to come out and a few more people to come out and not just go out and hit the streets, which is vital and important, but use my voice through the vote, use my dollars spent and the power that comes from that to businesses that are either supportive of or owned and operated by women, by people of color, by non-heteronormative cisgender people, it will make a difference. That $20 I spend here, that $1,000 I spend there will make a difference for sure. So I encourage everyone to do
Even
that.
I've had a lot of success talking with conservatives, just like, because I'm not shy. I've said this many times. I'm not shy about telling people my political beliefs. I'm not, because I think I'm right. And also I think I can have I know I'm right, but I think I can have a reasonable discussion about, like, when they ask, like, hey, Will, like, I've literally been asked this at least half a dozen times by conservatives. Like, what do you think about this whole defund the police type of thing? Because they have no idea what it's about. They think, they hear defund the police and they read Fox News or they watch Fox
Anarchy,
News.
chaos, yeah.
And I've had a lot of success at, like, even just explaining, like, hey, we're not saying take the money from the police and do nothing with it. We're saying, let's take the money from the police and use it more efficiently and in ways that actually better the community and allow the community itself to heal itself, instead of a lot like just giving it to the police so they can buy more tanks and more military equipment so they can further oppress people. No, we don't need more police. We have case studies of communities that don't have a lot of police and have really low crime rates.
Yeah.
Those are in rich communities. Those are in white communities. It's already being done all over the country. All the people, all the activists are saying is, let's apply that same sort of logic in community policing to other communities, to non-white communities, to less privileged communities, because that allows people to thrive. If you have a police force that is constantly pushing everybody down, and you have school systems that are essentially just a pipeline to prison,
Yep.
it will continue to get worse. It's cyclical.
Yeah,
we need to break the cycle.
I highly recommend to our listeners, if you haven't watched the Netflix documentary 13,
Yes.
definitely check it out.
Yes, absolutely.
Like it's a must.
Yeah.
You shouldn't subscribe or listen to us if you haven't watched it yet.
You can believe it or not, or listen, whatever, but I just at least watch it and then decide.
Very enlightening, right?
Here's the thing. So much of what I hear from the conservative camp is tied to data and for those of you just listening and not watching, I did massive air quotes here. The data of black on black crime.
It's not a
of
thing.
fucking no, it is a thing. But guess what? It's the exact same thing as every fucking race, right?
Exactly. It's not a
But
thing in the sense that it's
here's the
just
thing.
crime that happens in an
it's
area that happens to be predominantly black.
It's not a statistical
Exactly,
anomaly.
yeah.
Not a thing.
Guess what's going to happen?
Here in Salt Lake, I'm not predisposed to attack black people and kill them. Like
exactly.
You.
That's
fuck you.
Here's my point. Here's my point.
All
The
right,
data is based on racist thinking. So
Exactly.
here's why. If I go down to the fucking what's the name of that fucking bar we used to go to sometimes, Spencer, down in
Hitching Post.
the Hitching Post. If I go down to the fucking Hitching Post and I'm there with Ryan Watkins and we're smoking a cigar out back and we're drinking whiskey and we're shooting pool.
Well,
and
he's not, but you are.
Well, no, yeah,
He's
Ryan
a
would be.
teetotaler.
Okay,
But
Ryan's watching, and Matt Cole is there, and
All right, fair
Matt
enough.
fucking cheats while we're playing pool, and we're so drunk, and we go out in the parking lot and we kick each other's ass, and the police come. Guess what's gonna happen? Probably.
You guys are gonna be like,
if we go to blows, the police come, but then we're like, fuck, oh shit, sorry. They're gonna be like, oh, you stupid fucking drunk assholes, get the fuck out of here. If you go downtown with Mo, say, Spencer,
Yeah.
and you guys get in a fight somewhere, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna go to fucking jail that night. I can't guarantee it, but I guarantee it, to be honest.
The likelihood is there for sure.
The likelihood is solid there. So if from the beginning the data is skewed based on racist tendencies of the police, of the prosecutors, of all these people, then yeah, when you look at the data, if you're strictly wearing blinders and looking at data, you're like, well, shit, the data plays out. Like, oh, there's all this black on black crime. Yeah, that's all that's being fucking prosecuted. That's all that's being reported. That's
Kevin, you bring up a good point because like what you're describing is like a systemic racism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of people, when they hear like systemic racism and they hear like, oh, the police are systemically racist, what a lot of people will think is like, oh, they are hiring like racists, right? Like, and they probably are
sure.
But really what it is it's the system which is racist. It's, if you look at like court proceedings, black men, black boys, black women are more likely to get higher convictions, like convictions at a higher rate and harsher sentences
because we're super predators
people.
Will.
Exactly. Well, like exactly. That's the type of logic that produces those sorts of terms. It creates the system in which white people or privileged people, because there's also like a classist angle to this as well. Classism and racism are intertwined. Privileged people and white people tend to get off from being held accountable easier than people who are not white or privileged. That is the systemic racist part. It's a system that pushes other people down while lets other people go. You look at the fucking criminals in the Trump administration. Where was the accountability in the Trump administration? There wasn't any. There wasn't any accountability. I could, sorry, I don't mean to keep
systemic racism is an interesting term because my at least perception of how white people see it is, okay, there's some nefarious intent to every interaction. It's like, no, we're just trying to highlight the fact that there is inherent bias to many interactions we have as people of color within the system. And I think that extends somewhat, and I'm going to try and segue here a little bit. You know, in March, we celebrated Women's History Day, I believe, or
it was March 8th.
I'm probably misspeaking.
I'm wearing purple. Will's wearing purple. That's the color.
Please don't cancel me. Black is close to purple, but I always wear black. But I think, and coming out of the context of Mormonism, like Mormonism and society as a whole is invested in suppressing minority groups and propping up those who are in power, right? And I think that's a good branching off point into this.
Yeah.
So that I think another segue to add to yours, Spencer, is so I was talking about the vote in terms of racism, in terms of all these things. this week, I think it was, or last week, but some motherfucker, I can't think of who he was, a senator maybe
In Arizona?
Oh
yeah.
Who spoke up, spoke out, used his voice and privilege to describe how not everyone should be voting anyway in America. Like
quality over quantity, he even said.
Yeah,
that's literally what this person said.
What's that motherfucker's name? We need to call his ass out.
Right.
Can someone Google that? Yeah.
Consult the book of knowledge. Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it's certainly the nascent or recent battle cry of conservatism that it's all about legal votes and making sure that we can verify things, and it's a dog whistle. It's a it's a candy coating on a fucking turd, and it's a fuck you to minorities. I mean, okay, I being the pragmatic person that I try to be, I can understand where they're coming from in the sense that, oh, yes, of course, we want to verify that people have access to voting and it is verified, but they use that to weaponize voting access against people of color. For some people, it is hard to go get an ID. It is hard. $20 to you is different than $20 to someone who literally has $100 a month to feed their fucking family. So
and it's also like people who like the stupid fucking voter ID laws. Who's more likely to have like a government issued ID? It's like privileged people or it's not necessarily privileged people, but it's people who are able to drive, people who need to drive. And once you get into like the bigger cities, people don't need to drive as much. So why do they need to get a driver's license? So it's creating the system in which they create these fake problems. There is not a problem with people fraudulently voting. That is not a problem that we have in America, actually. If you look at the data, it's some minuscule, insignificant amount of people who try to vote illegally.
What likely drives that, at least from my perspective, what likely drives that is, of course we have good ideas. That's the presupposition of conservatives and their mindset, or liberals if you want, if I'm being generous here.
Yes.
Sure.
And so any rejection of my point of view means that there has to be something wrong with the system because my ideas are right. It's like, have you considered that maybe your ideas are reprehensible and people have just had enough? Is that something that ever crossed your mind? Because it's possible.
Yeah.
If you're going to be objective and be authentic and true to yourself, don't even get me fucking started on Mike Lee again. I think we need to save that for a wine and wine night again. But God damn it, like,
reprehensible is a optimal
when you
word
tell
to use when discussing.
When you tell people who identify as trans that essentially they're not human or they're crazy or have a mental illness, of course they're going to be like, fuck you, I'm not going to vote for you. Don't take that as an opportunity to say, well, of course the vote's not legal because I'm right. It's like, no, you said some fucked up shit and people are like, okay, you're out.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
My phone seems to be a magnet for robocalls, spam phone calls. And, we all get them. We get the auto warranty phone calls on our phones all the time.
God.
We're trying to contact you for your fucking car warranty.
Every day. But at least once a week. Warranty. I don't know how they got my number, but I keep getting phone calls at least once a week from like the police union. Wanting donations to like the retired police, veterans or whatever. And I'm like,
you know me? Do you fucking know?
Right. I'm like, what on earth makes you think I would give money to you assholes? Like what? And like usually I'm in a meeting or like at work at my desk when they call, so I'm not able to really let loose on them. But and it's a call center person. They're not like they're not the police veteran, but I would like to say, some things.
And by the way, shout out to the call center people. Been there, done that.
Right. Like, it's a bullshit job.
It's not the most fun job in the world.
No, it's not fun. No.
We respect you, but we do not respect the calls you make. Yeah,
yes.
There you go.
Don't work for that call center sending
Belinda,
police calls.
Belinda, we're talking about the vote, right? We're talking about, and you voted this election. and you had the right to vote. And we live in the state where women were first given the right to vote, right?
It's true. Even for
fucking
Crazy.
Utah, feminist Utah motherfuckers.
Utah is so feminist. They were the first to give women the right to vote. And
do you know why
lots
they
of
were
Utahns
given the
love
right
to
to
say
vote?
that. Yes.
I want to hear why is that? Why is that?
Because
Say
the
it, Kevin.
church was threatened or something. Is my
Well,
guess.
Essentially, yeah.
Or the church wanted more power?
Yes, ding, 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 ding. All of a sudden, the Mormons realize, like, oh fuck, if we and our 4 wives each are given the right to vote for all of us, then look, we can do whatever the fuck we want because we have all these votes, and we can just, you know, casually mention in fast and testimony meeting or general conference, like what's important to us, what our family values are, what, you know, the right thing to do, what God wants us to do. And now all of a sudden we have all this power that we didn't have before. So props to you, Utah, for being the first to allow women to vote.
And then rescind it.
And then
at
fuck
some
you,
point.
Utah, for not living up to being the state that allowed women to vote first. Because guess what?
Stand behind your shit, man.
We were just, Belinda and I were talking to a friend this morning. Shout out to Amy. We love you. We were talking to a friend about how there was some study. I can't remember what it was. I'll find out and put it in the show notes. But essentially, Utah was rated, I think it was second to last, not dead last. I don't know.
I want to know who the last one was.
Shout out to Wyoming or North Dakota or whoever the fuck was
someplace
last,
in the south, maybe. I don't know.
The 49th least friendly state for a woman to live in.
Oh my God.
And
really?
here's the thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, you know how sometimes you see these things and you're like, oh, well, there were all these categories and they really were shitty in one, but they were okay in most of them. It just, this one brought them really down. No, we were like 45th
last 5
to 50th
in
every fucking category.
Yeah.
From like how women felt about themselves to salaries to
pay, all these things.
Like to everything, right?
Yeah,
to,
we'll find
to
the
everything about
report.
being
It
a
was
woman.
great.
But we'll post that online. But the what's the word? The irony, I guess, of Utah being the home of the first female votes in America, to being like the most or one of the most sexist states to live in modern times, and really in pretty much all times. Even though we were the first state to legalize a vote for women, is while entertaining, also really sad, because as we talked about, it's Women's History Month, Women's History Day, or not Women's History, International Women's Day was March 8th, and March is Women's History Month. Let's talk about not only feminism, because I know that's a hot topic word for some people, both in the positive and the negative, but let's talk about what it means to be a woman in Utah, and who can do that better than the rest of us, than you, Belinda, because we all have dicks.
So. Way to put me on the spot.
Belinda, spotlight on Belinda.
I have many thoughts on this, many thoughts. So going back to, I think, what Spencer's initial segue before the segue on segue was like the having being fearful about being, you know, walking around even just in public, right? So I was thinking about that recently. That's one thing I want to touch on. Women being anti-feminist, right? Like they're causing problems for themselves here in Utah. It's bullshit.
What do you mean? Explain what you mean by that.
A lot of women like kind of perpetuate the patriarchy, patriarchal perpetuation, y'all. So like,
so I'm gonna be.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna be devil's advocate here.
Okay.
How can a woman be pro patriarchy? Like the patriarchy, as far as I understand it, and by the way, I know the answer, but I'm just, you know.
Yeah, how would you define
Just
those
say it.
things? I hear people
does a
talk
woman
about
be-
the patriarchy. It's almost like when people say they. I mean,
Yeah.
at least for me, I kind of imagine this like dark circle of inner white people that are invested in subjugating everyone else. But when you say
With our
patriarchy,
cloaks
what do you
on.
mean?
No, Kevin had a good definition for the patriarchy this morning. Tell us, because you said
I've had a lot of
patriarchy
drinks.
is not men, right?
No. Patriarchy is a system based on the empowerment of men over women or other genders, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that men have some innate, often thought of as God-given right to power that allows them to lead and subjugate the other genders under them.
Right.
Sorry, that was wordy. Yeah.
That was beautiful.
It was better
it's
this
true,
morning.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like so many ways to take this. I'm, trying to figure out.
So women, how do women support the patriarchy? I don't.
Oh my God. Okay, so if you've ever been a Mormon,
I have.
What? Okay, so
It's
in the
probably
Mormon
a lot
church,
asking. It's probably a lot like asking me, "Hey, how do white people? How are they racist?" I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Belinda's probably like, seriously.
I'm overwhelmed. No, in
I'm
the Mormon
setting
church,
up, Spencer. I'm setting it up. Yeah.
no, in the Mormon church, women do not have the ability to receive the priesthood or like any so the priesthood being power from God given to you in a blessing when you're 12 and you become a deacon, which in any other religion is like somebody who's gone to like parochial school, like they've gone to like these one of the seminaries and had a degree in religion or whatever. No, in Utah you get it when you turn 12 and you're a boy
and you don't masturbate too much.
And well, they get it anyway. They just give it to them and then they tell them not to do that so much. So
that's true.
Well, some of us, Kevin.
No, so girls, when they turn 12, they, I don't know, get a candy bar. I don't know, like literally, like what do the girls get when they turn 12? Nothing. They do not get a special blessing.
A white salamander. Don't ask me that.
A white salamander.
If
I wish. That'd be at least kind of cool.
Don't ask me that. Don't ask me that. Don't make me answer that.
You do that perfectly, Spencer, by the way.
If I'm not mistaken, which I very well could be, but in the second anointment, don't women get like elevated to the level of having some sort of priestesshood?
Interesting. You should mention that. So yes, well, when you are
endowed,
married or endowed, you're you're made a what is that, a queen and priestess, or a like
unto
your husband?
How do they phrase it? What's her name? Nuance.
No, it wasn't her. It was another woman. It was like it was just one.
The one with the temple clothes.
Yeah. I was made a queen and priestess unto my husband. And that's when you get married. You get that you're a priestess. Woo woo.
That blessing.
That blessing. When you're 12, you get nothing. A candy bar, maybe. You get like a fucking Snickers bar and a pat on the back that's creepy from somebody in the bishopric. Yeah. And king size. No.
Is it medium?
Isn't made of money, goddammit.
Is it medium thick?
No, it's not. It's like the slim version. It's fun size,
version.
It's like the Oreo thins, I don't know. So you get because you don't want to get too big because you're a lady, you got to keep the, it's another way we could take all this. But so women are not given much power in the church until they are able to have some sort of leadership position within the lady ranks of which is over children or over other ladies. And so you might be called. So what they do is they call you in. Somebody in the bishopric says, Heavenly Father's told us that you would be a perfect fit for this position, this leadership position in the church. And they tell you, and you're never supposed to say no. That's kind of been
you're taught that from a very young
age. You never refuse a calling from the church. Yeah, because it's inspired, obviously. They They knew.
God knows.
God
better
told
than you
them.
do. Yeah.
So you take this position of leadership over either a bunch of little shits in the primary, which is,
Or nursery. Yeah.
or the nursery. Oh my, well, how awful. Or over the Relief Society, which is the women's organization in the Mormon Church.
Don't they still have a man presiding though?
So the
Not in like regular Relief Society meetings, but
Okay.
like on special occasions, like when they have like, larger meetings, they're always men.
But
present.
that being said, the
Girls'
Relief
camp.
Society president reports up to the bishop.
Yes.
I see.
So the Relief Society president, and she usually has she has two counselors and a secretary. And that's kind of like this system all throughout the church, right? There's a president, two counselors, and then like supporting people in this administration of whatever organization in the church. If you want to wield any power in the Mormon church as a woman, you need to support the patriarchal system. Yes. Yep. You need to prop up the penis, so to speak. Yeah.
Because they are flaccid. No, but this is the smallest side, Belinda. I saw an interesting suggestion. I saw an interesting suggestion. I think it actually fucking works. It's fucking beautiful. If you look at any sort of church media publication, instruction, direction on the quote unquote priesthood, substitute that word with penis. And
oh God, that's incredible.
Will die laughing. It is
power of
incredible
the penis.
because it's so fucking true.
Yeah.
It's so fucking true. Power of the penis compels you.
Indeed. It's
Belinda, I can see I can see how
the penis be upon me and my posterity through all generations of time and through all eternity.
Power of the penis be upon me. Yes.
The penis be upon me. Oh yeah.
I can see how like the incentives for like a woman to like move up the ranks or to gain more power, I guess, like over their local ward. Like you have to suck up to the patriarchy. You have to kind of buy into the.
You said suck up.
I know, intentionally.
Oh my! I mean,
well,
I've
also seen you this week you shared a book written by a Mormon author.
Yeah.
Who was teaching what was it, homemaking tips?
Yeah, it's like a. So when I was a little girl, my mom had this book. Okay, I'm gonna hold this up.
So it's like from the 50s or 60s.
Late 60s. Right? Okay. I still have like the DI tag. A DI is like a thrift store, a Mormon-owned thrift store. Cost me $2 whole. I used to buy these every time I went to the DI. It's called The Art of Homemaking. Yeah. And so I used to buy them all the time. I'd go to the DI, I'd find them, and I'd buy them as gag gifts and give them to my friends with an apron, a vintage apron.
Yeah,
I definitely want that.
So it's, an interesting little book, Art of Homemaking by Daryl V. Hool. I believe she's a Dutch woman, actually, that immigrated to the United States.
That book, the passages you shared with us, I could definitely like. That's straight up a person who is upholding the patriarchy.
Absolutely.
Put in a smile for your husband.
Do you guys remember when Relief Society's midweek meeting? For those who don't listen, Mormons meet more than on Sunday, but it was called homemaking meeting. Do you remember that shit?
Yes,
I do.
Homemaking meeting. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it there. But
the PR department made them change.
It's literally fucking called homemaking meeting.
What is it called now? I don't even know. Like
enrichment
night. Yes,
it's all fucking double speak, man. Like
it is.
People weaponize. I forgot his name, but anyhow. The dude who
what
wrote 1984. They weaponize his words and say, "Oh, the left is doing this, that." It's like, no, man. Here are these conservative people using fucking double speak.
Yeah.
Right.
Homemaking.
Well, like that book.
Enrichment because it's fucking good for you.
Yeah.
That book is like the perfect example of somebody who is upholding the patriarchy when they themselves are the ones being oppressed by it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you call that?
Confirmation
Stockholm
bias,
syndrome.
man.
Well,
Stockholm, but also confirmation bias is like, I
Yeah.
am so invested in the confirmation combined with the Concord fallacy. I am so invested in my current course of action that I'm unwilling to challenge it because of how much I've invested in it.
Right.
So my mom had this book and she loved it. She loved it. It had all these things about keeping your house organized. It had task lists for children, like based on age, like things they could do to help around the house. There's even a chapter. Let's see, let me find it. On husbands, all I ask, just, don't pester your husband too much. Don't like nag him to do things. If you bring something up that's big between you, it could set off a bomb in your relationship. Like, do not bring up big shit with your husband.
Because anytime a woman has something to talk about, it's nagging or bitching, right?
Exactly. So my mom had this book when I was growing up. I, bought a copy at the DI when I became a young wife, and I kept it and I would look at it and read it, and didn't love everything in it because I'm not one of these people that's like so structured that like they have this like task list every day that's like, I don't know, just
I was.
It reminds me of
that's where you're a great project manager.
That's why I was the most kick-ass stay-at-home dad.
You were.
And stay-at-home dad. Go ahead, Will.
It reminds me of maybe a week ago, there was this really big study that was published, and it was talking about like gender roles within the household, and the study had found that like women tend to prefer more of like the traditional like women household tasks or whatever. And a lot of conservatives were commenting on it, saying shit
Kevin
like,
is freaking the fuck out. Let's have Will finish his thought.
No. Let me finish this.
I'm like, really? Okay.
So a lot of conservatives were using this as like proof. Like, this is undeniable proof that women should stay in the kitchen and
women like that.
All that sort of stuff.
Barefoot and pregnant.
But like literally within the study, like it had referenced like, because of conservative gender norms and like disallowing women from participating in workplaces at the same level as men, of course they're going to start doing these sorts of tasks, because these sorts of tasks need to get done in order for a house to like be efficient and function. Well, guess what? When you center a whole entire economy around men, that's what's going to happen. When women aren't making the same amount as money as men are in the same occupation, of course the women are going to start working in the home.
Right. And
it's
literally
not to say that women, it's like their role, it's saying that we are forcing them into that. If that makes sense.
There's a lot of ways they force women into that, because childcare is exorbitant, right? Like if you have kids that need to go to daycare or hire a nanny or a babysitter or whatnot, it costs a lot of money. And women
a lot of money.
I know.
I have the perfect example for you of that exact thing. Was this man, my timeline is so fucked up, guys. It was either this week or last week. There was a
when you wake up at 5 p.m.
Yes. Which I did today.
What is time anyways?
I tweeted last night, time is fake. Anyways. So there was this like state senator or state representative of I forget what state. I'll make sure to find the video so that we could post it or something. But they were on the floor of their state Congress debating expanding funding for like daycare and preschool. And one of these state senators stood up and said some shit like, well, if we give more money to fund preschool, that means that women are going to leave the home and maybe pursue a career. Women's place is in the home. So we shouldn't fund anything that would allow them to have more mobility for their own career. This is what I'm saying, though, is when you create a system which forces women to be in the home, of course that's what they're going to do, because they're fucking being forced to do it.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing, they're doing labor in the home, right?
Yes,
they're performing
it's unpaid labor.
to take care of children, to cook, to clean, to, you know, run errands, whatever, you know, that they might be paid otherwise for. They're doing it, you know, to support their husband's career or to, you know, just stay afloat, essentially.
Yeah.
So like, I know, you know, a number of women that like especially when I was a young mom, I lived in an area that was a pretty young area, like more inexpensive houses, a new build area. Eagle Mountain, Utah.
What's up,
Was
Evil
the
Mountain?
thing. Evil Mountain.
Evil Mountain.
It was the place to be when you were a young mom in the early 2000s. So in that area, like you had so many moms that
Only if you had Botox lip injections, though. But
no, Eagle Mountain's not quite like that.
That's
is
Saratoga. That's more
Saratoga, yeah.
and
Lehigh.
Alpine Highland. Yes.
The
Draper.
ranches.
The ranches. The ranches being a kind of nicer subdivision of Eagle Mountain, yeah. So
Shout out to Taylor Pinnock. Yeah.
so in Eagle Mountain, I knew several women in my ward, which is our what we call our congregations in Mormonism, who, you know, their families desperately needed a second income, right? Like a lot of families can't subsist on a single income. It's not really doable anymore unless
We live in
somebody
an
is
expensive
making
country.
yeah, unless somebody's making an insane amount of money, you know, you can't just do a single income home and thrive, right? Like you can survive, but
It's
you're not gonna
Spencer.
yeah.
But
not as cool, Spencer.
we're not
Yeah.
all as talented as
No,
you.
I mean you can
True.
survive. You can survive, but
You can-
yeah,
you
it's-
can
it's
get by.
fucking rough, is my point.
Right. But in this kind of lower income community, there were
Yeah.
so many families that needed to have a second income, but couldn't make it work because of the cost of childcare for their kids. And so they're like, you know, staying home, you know, cutting coupons, you know, like doing all these things, trying to like save money and, you know, make it work. And it's just untenable. You can't survive and have a good life that way. But like because you have to give the person caring for your child a fair wage, right? Like, and
Guess what? That doesn't happen.
no, it doesn't. It's ridiculous. The whole thing.
I'm getting a little PTSD just like last week. So, excuse me. I'm not going to go off on anyone. I promise. Well, I can't.
Not a
promise.
single person, just a group of people.
Go off, Kevin.
No, God damn it. So,
Oh my.
Do it, Kevin.
Here, let's hear it.
so my perspective is different. I'm different. Yeah, I'm different.
You're different and I'm drunk, so
So yeah, same.
Keep it
So I was working, doing my thing, working in a technology startup, and then the 2000-ish technology stock market crash happened. The bubble burst.
dot-com bubble.
Dot-com bubble. Yeah.
the .com fucking
The
bubble.
.com. Yeah. And then I didn't have a job all of a sudden anymore, and I had to reinvent myself. But what happened is exactly what you're talking about, Belinda, in that all of a sudden now, my now ex-wife, but my dear friend, who was my wife at the time, got an offer to be a professor at a university, and at the exact same time that I lost my job. Oh, and by the way, we just had our first child and just bought our first house, and we're living the American dream in Provo, Utah, right? And what happens when you lose your job and you have a house and you have a baby is you freak the fuck out.
Absolutely.
Because you're like, it's what you're talking about, Spencer, as a single parent or as a single income parent. You're like, your ass is on the line.
It's an immense
for
amount of pressure.
everything. It is. But what happened at the time is it wasn't like one decision we came to, but all of a sudden I became the at-home parent with a brand new baby and no experience, no home ec in school, no training from church or family. I barely fucking knew how to do my own laundry because I learned that on my own when I went on a Mormon mission, right? After fucking turning all my white shirts pink the first time, I learned how to do fucking laundry, right? Now all of a sudden I'm in this position where I'm in a home with a baby and zero experience on how to be an at-home parent.
But Kevin, being the person he is, he's a jump both feet in type of person. You
fucking
did what?
head first. I
Yes.
just fucking dive in head first. Like, that's why my hair looks like this. But no, like I dove in and I fucking, the internet was like,
You ate it all up. You dove in and you ate it all up.
But yeah, that's for another discussion. Yeah, eating.
This whiskey's hitting us hard.
We'll
guys.
talk about eating.
It is.
Another time.
but what I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to sum it up. I'm going to sum it up right here.
All right.
Every fucking human being right now, and I'm talking to the 4 of you, but I'm talking to the millions of you who listen to this weekly.
The millions of our viewers. Yes.
Do you want to know what changed my fucking life? So the first thing I did is I Googled, like, how the fuck do you cook? How the fuck do you clean the kitchen? I didn't know. And nobody had taught me. I didn't know shit. I didn't know shit. So I'm doing that and I'm getting better and I'm learning to cook and I'm watching Emeril Lagasse on the fucking Food Network, like when the baby's down for a nap, so I can fucking figure some shit out. And I'm like, oh, I actually enjoy cooking. This is great. I don't love cleaning, but like it's a necessity. Okay. And I'm a schedule driven, I'm a list driven person. So like, okay, I'm gonna like make lists on how to keep the house clean and do all these things. And then you know what the fuck happened? I had a second child. Well, I didn't. I don't have
It's impressive, Kevin.
a uterus. I don't have a uterus at all. But my wife had a second child. And this child was, shout out Spencer. This child was needy as an infant, as many children are, and needed to be held a lot. She had, what do you call that shit?
Acid reflux or something.
Acid reflux stuff. And they just want to be held all the time, upright, and they want to sleep in your arms. So I had a sling. Do you know what a sling is? It's like a little baby carrier thing. And I would just walk. So she would nap and I would walk laps around my driveway or my yard or the inside of my house if it was winter. And I would listen to audiobooks. And one day, for no particular reason other than my wife at the time is a major feminist, I saw a book on her bookshelf in our office called The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. Mm-hmm. If you have not read it, you should read it. And I'm speaking to men, women, children, all of the above.
There's a little bit that's outdated in it, but it's a good read.
It was written in the 60s-ish, maybe 70s, something like that. It's a little outdated, but it teaches us exactly what Belinda was talking about. The patriarchy / capitalism / religion / the fucking man, shout out to Jack Black, fucking controls everything.
Yeah.
And by the way, while we're talking about books, read A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf as well. Like both of those are must reads for everyone. Get them on Audible. Audible's one of our sponsors, or will be in the near future. So
I've often had this thought that those who are invested in positions of power are unwilling to cede that power without significant struggle and significant discomfort. And if we approach things without that mindset, we're in for a world of hurt. It's gonna be fucking hard.
I think a good example of that, and a good example of racism and sexism is so Google has been having this huge controversy lately. One of their vice presidents over like their department to research artificial intelligence, Jeff Dean, he fired their 2 head ethicists. They were studying ethics in the realm of AI. And this woman, this Black woman, Timnit, she posted this like essay in one of their Google group chats. Like it's a group formed, it's called like Brain Women or something. And basically it's like this forum for women to talk about sexism and other isms like racism in a safe space within Google.
For Google employees then?
For Google employees. Like it was specifically a safe space where people could speak up about problems that they're having.
Yeah.
So Timnit, she posted this essay about how she was writing this scientific study on the racism and sexism within large language models, and she listed like all these different ways that she feels that she was being like kind of sexist tropes that were being used and racist things that were being done to her. And instead of listening to that, they fucking fired her.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
Will you post a link to this? I want to read this.
I absolutely will. And then
we got mega show notes this week.
Yeah. And then Jeff Dean, the person who fired her, sent out this email completely gaslighting the whole entire issue. He's saying like, oh, Timnit, she actually resigned. She actually she wasn't doing a good job. She was actually forging a lot of her data that she was using, completely smearing this scientist. And so, of course, the co-head chair of the department that she was running, her name was Mitchell. I believe it was either Mitchell or Michelle. I'm gonna fuck up the names, but she started to like stand up for Timnit, and she started to be like, "Hey, what happened to Timnit was absolutely wrong. Her scientific study that she was working on, I've been working on it with her, and it is flawless. It is beautiful. It is going to be the next, like for the next decade, it's going to be talked about as one of the best papers done on AI." And then they fired Mitchell because she stood up to defend Timnit. And it's to your point, Spencer, is this Jeff Dean character, whether it be racism or sexism, or both, which I am sure it was also this patriarchal view of like, I am in this position of power. How dare you question me? How dare you actually stand up and say that I'm doing something wrong? Because I'm here. I've earned my spot. Blah 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 blah. I'm a white man. Whatever. And he ended up firing both of them for speaking out.
I
happens.
I will admit I forgot my thoughts and my position because I'm drunk as fuck.
You drunk, Spencer?
This will not end well.
No, I'm barely awake. I had an extra fun last night, so I'm like barely here. But I wanted to.
It was daylight savings.
And it was daylight savings,
Fuck
so
daylight
we're all a
savings
little.
Fuck you, daylight savings. Whoever.
No,
invented that.
so what I wanted to say about
Okay.
women upholding the patriarchy. Okay, in the church, it's very prevalent, and in the world, really too. To be able to advance as a woman, you gotta, you gotta do your part to like make those dudes feel really important, right?
Hold up the man.
J.K. Rowling is another one of these women who uphold the patriarchy.
Fuck J.K. Rowling.
So, I was raised in a home where women were praised for their sacrifices of their own life to support their husbands. And we actually discussed this morning again with Amy, and she brought it up, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot, in the past few years, actually. Here I was raised in a home where they were like, oh, your grandmother, your great grandmother, she was this talented sculptor. She did all these things, but she didn't do it so that she could support her husband because she wanted him to shine. Or, my grandfather, his job is to support the family. He was an artist. Like he literally did commission paintings and he did like sign, what's the resurgence of that, Spencer? The sign making stuff.
I don't know anymore. What is real?
He doesn't know in the moment.
How do you define real?
No, I know.
Is real what you feel?
And my grandma, she was actually a very talented artist and didn't do it so that her husband could, appear to be the, more talented one of,
right.
In a way. I'm half asleep. Like I'm barely
Well,
here.
This isn't even Mormonism. Like
No, it's just women. Like it's just patriarchy.
No, I
like,
mean, in
forcing
all
women
reality,
into a role, right?
I'm sure we'll have a follow-up discussion, and I
Oh, for
would
sure.
love to.
We have to,
Absolutely.
because
Well,
Yeah.
well, for my point that I want to wrap on is rap. I'm not gonna rap this.
Freestyle, Will. Let's go.
Please
break it
wrap
down. Break it down.
No. All I wanted to say was like I grew up in a house where like my dad was just starting his business. Like it had been a couple of years, so they're like in the meat of the startup phase, right?
Yeah.
And my mom was the accountant for this business.
Yeah.
So like growing up, I didn't see this like patriarchal view
Right,
of,
this model,
like
yeah.
gender roles of like women at the home, whatever.
It's wonderful.
And my mom ended up being like, I'm closest with anybody in my family, like with my mom. She's who I've always been closest with. And I've always made better friends with women. And like my best friends are girls. And I really struggle when guys treat women differently. Like even in like discussions, even like when you're talking about something and they're like, oh, well,
benevolently as well.
Say that again, Spencer.
Like if there's benevolent affirmation given to women.
Yeah. Like they just treat them differently. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you might not understand this, but like,
Special.
and then they'll like mansplain something, and it's like, stop doing that. Do you guys not realize that men and women
factory is gonna make tiny humans?
A little
Like-
factory.
So the point I want to wrap on is just like, there really isn't that much difference between men and women, and
It's
in any other
chromosome.
gender. We're all
Yeah.
fucking human at the end of the day. And it's these stupid patriarchal ideas that make people think we're different.
It's true.
But when it comes down to it, we are not different at all. We are just
Exactly.
the same.
Yeah.
That's what I
no-
wanted to wrap on.
Waka waka.
Okay.
So okay, I have so much I want to say, but I can't like keep my eyes open,
We
and
can't form
Spencer's
thoughts.
struggling. So
Right,
here's what I
yes.
want to say. Just like I'm going to try to bring it into a nutshell, and we can whine and whine about this maybe midweek or something.
I would
Oh, we
love to
should
hear
whine
you.
and
Um,
Good to me.
Absolutely.
So I was raised in a home, a family, a
Me
community
too.
that did not support any sort of feminine I don't know, feminism, right? And so when Kevin and I started dating, I remember pretty early
Wait,
on, he
what?
hates this story. So
we used to date.
we used
What?
to date, you know.
Alerts. Just kidding. Go ahead, Belinda.
So Kevin and I, when we first started dating, like we'd only been together a couple months, I think. And I once mentioned I had done something that wasn't ladylike. And Kevin is a gentle giant. He doesn't get angry very often. He's all turning red. But he got this angry look in his eyes. He was like it was like the Hulk or something, right? And he was like, he's like,
Feminist Hulk.
he's like, yeah, feminist Hulk came to, into creation right here. He was like, ladylike is a construct meant to keep women in their place. And I was like, this was my introduction. It's true.
True.
But this was my introduction to any sort of feminism in my life. And I had been out of the church over a year. I was like, I was stunned and I didn't have anything to say. I was like, oh, okay. And he like sent me the Betty Friedan book and he like was like, oh, you need to read this,
You need to read this now.
Yes.
A man is telling you this.
Oh my God.
No, and then he took me to New York and we went to the Brooklyn Museum and saw Judy Chicago's The Dinner Party, which is a very moving work of art
I'm gonna cry again.
surrounding feminism, and really opened my eyes and to what was going on around me. I had no clue. And I'm still learning. But women a lot in our culture, but also especially in the Mormon church, uphold the patriarchy to an obscene extent. It's awful. It's awful. So I was raised to, be unseen, to serve everybody before myself, right? That these are commendable qualities
Seen,
in a
but not
woman.
heard.
Right.
Right.
And our friend Amy mentioned that she had a colleague that posted a post about his wife's birthday, and she was so upset by this post. It was like praising his wife, and he is Mormon, but he seemed to be kind of a more progressive, feminist Mormon. And he posted about how selfless his wife was, how she like thought of everybody before herself, and it just went on and on and on about all these like positive qualities of how she really didn't have a self. She really just gave to other people. And these are qualities that are praised in Mormonism overall for any person, right? Like at a funeral you go to, like you tell about how they just gave to everybody, but especially as a woman, you are expected to, give birth, give to other people, like sacrifice yourself. And your reward is some sort of, I don't know, something in heaven,
street,
right? Like, I don't know.
Fucking golden streets.
You get some break in heaven. But when they said, in Mormonism that when you go to heaven, you're going to be a missionary, I was like, oh, what?
Like missionaries,
No.
like.
And guess what? You get to keep having babies, Belinda.
And you just keep birthing babies. Like
Fucking spirit babies.
Spirit sperm.
Yeah.
Maybe they
and
don't grow for as long in your belly.
No, let's do a wine and wine about safety and being a minority or a woman. I think that's a good topic. Let's talk about
There
that.
was so much.
Good topic. I'm
Spirit
not either
come.
of those
But go
things.
ahead.
There was so much I wanted to say about the very first thing you said, Belinda. Well, I'm not gonna bring the conversation to this now because we should wrap. But
We're drunk. Jesus.
I'm drunk. I'm just exhausted.
Will,
I'm trying to get drunk.
Will has the driver's wheel right now.
Let me just put the bookmark in so we can talk about it.
The Will wheel.
So we can talk about it
got
during
the
a wine and wine or
wheel.
something. But
Do it, Will.
no. The point you made the first about women feeling unsafe.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about that.
I agree. It's a big topic and something I thought about actually this last week because Kevin will tell you I drunk ordered a Groupon one night. I never go on Groupon and I don't know why I went on, but I was inebriated. I went on Groupon and I bought a 6-pack of visits to a men's health clinic, and I will tell you about this.
It's incredible, actually.
Oh my God.
And Kevin hasn't even heard the story, so it's going to be a surprise for everyone
Okay.
when I tell you my story about the.
Well, great.
Yeah.
That's a perfect spot to end on. Go follow us on Twitter at ThirstPod. Follow us on Facebook at the Thirst Impressions, right? And
Thirst
Impressions
Podcast.
And
also
thirstimpressions.show on the webs.
Sorry.
Yes.
Where Spider-Man
Get-
comes.
All the show notes.
Yes.
Yes.
Spider-Man.
This show will
paints
have
that
lots
shit.
of notes.
Spider-Man comes in all the ways. No, go visit our website. It's really lovely. And we put I think we're improving every week on the show notes. Like there's more
Thorough, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely give us feedback if you have any ideas, thoughts, questions, comments,
Sure.
whatnot. Leave a comment on the video, shoot us an email, interact on the Facebook page, all that good stuff. Share our shit.
Shout out to all our friends who are interacting with us.
Shout out to Big Dick
Yeah.
Darren once again.
Shout out to
Big Dick
Trevor.
Darren,
Big Dick Darren.
Dan, we've got
Dan, what's up?
Trevor.
Mel, always Mel.
Trevor.
Mel.
It's all dudes though.
Trevor.
We got other peeps though. Thank you.
We
you know
got
who you
all
are.
the peeps, and we love you. Share it with your friends too. Tell people
Share it with your parents. They would love
No.
this.
Share with your parents.
they're gonna hate
so
our
that you
asses.
can change your family.
Don't
relationship
share it with my
forever.
parents.
Forever. Share your
Or
family
mine.
relationship forever.
Your mom will love this
It'll never be the
podcast.
same.
Should be like, oh, Will talked about how
Will is so
his
authentic.
relationship, but that motherfucker talked about a bunch
Will
of
is
shit.
so authentic. I just love that kid.
Now, your mom.
All
would
right.
never
All right.
say
We'll see you guys
motherfucker.
next week.
For sure.
We love you.
Oh,
Bye.
oh yeah.
Oh, what?
Oh.
What-
No, I don't
what is it? Okay.
I was like, oh, it's the end.
Bye.
Subscribe.
Hey, bye everyone. Love you all. Mwah.
Is this a monster truck rally? What are we doing?
Why do they have school off?
Spring break.
Masturbation day?
All boys have time to jack off, so we'll just
Crackly Bit. That could have been my stage name yesterday.
crackly bits. Come crackly bits. Come crackly bits.
Oh, we're deep, baby.
Rolling deep, so deep down in this bitch concrete. I'm a party all night, no sleep.
Welcome to Thirst Impressions. Eat my ass.
I'm Spencer.
What?
I'm Spencer.
No, that's not.
Wait, start again. What the hell was that, Kevin? Christ.
Milky secretions.
Oh dear, no.
I don't even fucking care at this point. I'm so fucking drunk. I've been drinking since 3 p.m., people. Subscribe, bitches.